Come on in, sit back and relax. You're listening to the Wealth Tech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. This podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices all around wealth management technology. My guest for this episode was Stefan Ludlow, CTO of Cerity Partners. Headquartered in New York City, Cerity Partners was ranked number 7 on Barron's 2024 list of RIA megafirms, with an assets under management of over $130 billion. We spoke about Cerity's M&A integration approach and how they're built their tech stack to be able to support rapid mergers and acquisitions. We went through their tech stack in great detail, focused on the 3 core parts of their stack: Salesforce, Orion, and their data warehousing. And we jumped into a bit of their data warehousing architecture and how they built their systems and their setup and how it's helping them to grow. And one of the reasons why we feel firms like Cerity Partners are able to grow so quickly just in the last 6 years is that they are able to make critical decisions with data warehousing architecture. It's not fragmented across many legacy systems. And here at Ezra Group, we can help wealth management firms do something similar and turn their data chaos into a competitive advantage. Our data warehouse solutions are built specifically for advisory businesses, integrating custodial feeds, portfolio management systems, CRMs, and more into a single scalable source of truth. If you want to free your firm for exponential growth, you need to run, not walk to our website, ezragroup.com, and click the golden Contact Us button on the homepage. Whether you're building your first data warehouse or struggling with a bloated data lake that's become a liability, the experienced team at Ezra Group will help you design, optimize, and future-proof your data architecture. From vendor selection to ETL workflows and BI strategy, we know what works and what doesn't. So don't let bad data hold your business back. Visit ezragroup.com to learn more and schedule a free strategy call today. And now, my standard housekeeping chores. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our sponsor, the Invest in Others Charitable Foundation at investinothers.org. And if you are a software vendor in the wealth management space, go to our vendor portal, ezragroup.com/register, and register to update your product's wealth tech integration score in our vendor portal today. Now, let's kick this thing off. All right, I'm excited to introduce our next guest, Stefan Ludlow, Chief Technology Officer, Cerity Partners. Welcome, man.
Hey, Craig, how's it going?
It's going fine. I'm pretty happy to be here. We're both in the Northeast enjoying the beautiful weather.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, rainy for the last week, which has not been fun. I'm missing the first parts of spring, but I feel the humidity of summer in New York coming.
I know, right? It's just around the corner. People say, what's it like living in the Northeast? It's like, it's rainy, cold, dreary. You get 2 weeks of spring and then it's hot and miserable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are. All right. So let's jump in. Can you please provide a 30-second elevator pitch for Cerity Partners?
Yeah. Cerity Partners, we are a wealth management firm focused on high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, their families. We do a lot of work with businesses as well, foundations, endowments with our OCIO program. We also have venture capital group that works with corporate venture capital clients across the nation. We're 1,300 colleagues, over $130 billion in AUM. And really, when you think about Cerity Partners, we provide high quality financial advice to people who have sophisticated challenges. And we do that really well with colleagues across the country. We've been around for quite a bit and grown significantly over the last 6 years that I've been here at Cerity Partners. When I joined, we were about 130 colleagues, 120, 130, and we've grown remarkably over the last 6 years. And it's been an incredible journey.
So let's just jump right into M&A. It sounds really easy, right? You just
Ah,
buy up a bunch of companies, bring them on board. I mean, it's so simple, right? Tell us a little about it, this is a simple process of bringing on new firms into your platform.
it is one of the most important things that we do, and it's one of the most important things to get right. As Masha Hodi, one of my favorite people in the universe, talks about at Cerity Partners, change is hard, and M&A is all about change. As colleagues join us, as practices join us, uh, where we're different is creating a unified firm. We are creating Cerity Partners. When people join Cerity Partners, I always tell them, hey, in 6 months and a year, you'll be an old hand because we will continue to grow. So everyone sometimes thinks like, oh, it's going to take a long time, but the people who are here rapidly join and integrate with what Cerity Partners is, and our DNA is really that over 86 different practices across the country who've joined together in a partnership to provide advice. And that DNA has been here since the very beginning. It's really cool. As far as our strategy there, though, it's really to create one firm. It's not to create cookie cutter advice, to be clear, at all. Our colleagues and our practices who provide the advice, we lean into their specialties, their core expertise, and we lean into that. But with a layer of technology, with a layer of firm operating system, so to speak, that allows that to operate sustainably and at scale, most importantly, and continue to grow. It's not an aggregator. It's really it's one firm, one vision aligned with those practices. It's very tied into professional services, really, and very similar to professional services organizations who operate at scale.
And it's more than just, you mentioned one firm, it's more than just one ADV.
Yeah, absolutely. There are, when you look at it technically, it's like if you're just one ADV and you kind of put an umbrella around everybody and you say, hey, yeah, we're just one firm and it's under the ADV, but you can do whatever you want. It 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 creates challenges for how does a practice and a firm scale, because you can do that 10 times, you can do that 20 times, where you just kind of bolt components on. But if you don't take that next step and really build the connective tissue between those practices beyond the ADV, it becomes incredibly inefficient over time. And you get cultural divides, regional divides that create friction in delivering client service. One of the coolest things that I get to see at Cerity Partners as teams or practices join is they go through an evolution. When they first join, it's, hey, we need to figure out this new technology stack. There's a bunch of onboarding that needs to get done. Change is hard, it's stressful. Like, let me get my sea legs. Let me make sure from a client service perspective, we are not dropping any ball, that we are doing even more than we did before. Let me focus on that, focusing really on the core practice for a short period of time. But as you look at year two and year three, as they get introduced to other practices in their region or across the country that provide similar advice, or if their clients are very similar, or they have similar challenges, that connective tissue starts to form between those two practices. There's even a regional offsite happening in the Mid-Atlantic region here in a couple of weeks, where over 100 different colleagues from different practices are getting together, who've come in at different times, and they're building a big agenda where they're in office and they're going through different training sessions and collaborating with each other. And that connective tissue just grows over time between practices. There's even an economic sharing between them if there's particular advice that one practice can't provide that another practice does, for example, tax. Where colleagues will bring in other practices to support that particular client, and that just keeps building that tissue, and that's awesome. That's really, really cool to see. It's probably the coolest thing that I get to see, that practices at year six, who I worked with over 6 years ago when they first joined Cerity Partners, how cross integrated they are with other practices. They really don't silo that much.
That's a huge benefit to having this type
Huge.
of M&A platform and this type of M&A culture, right? So the culture is also important of not being, you might have 80 plus different practices, but you're presenting them as a family in effect.
Absolutely. If you walk into any Cerity Partners office, At the end of the day, the deliverables that you're receiving, number one, it's high quality advice. The highest quality in the industry is absolutely our goal, and incredibly sophisticated. When we're dealing with uh, clients in that high net worth, ultra high net worth segment, like it's not the same situation over and over and over again. So how do you provide that really nuance to the situation that's being presented? But at the core level, as we look at the technology that's providing that advice, like e-money, for example, the deliverable is the e-money financial plan as part of what that client is receiving. It's a Cerity Partners investment statement that they're receiving. So there's that thread that runs through that relationship.
Speaking of e-money, I want to walk through your tech stack, if you don't mind. Just quickly,
Absolutely.
just list for the audience. What makes up the firm operating system layer? What are all the different components of your tech stack?
Yeah, absolutely. At the core, I'll just start with Salesforce. It's our really operating system, obviously our customer relationship management database. It's our client master for who are our clients. Integrated then with Orion for portfolio reporting, Eclipse for trading, and we actually have quite a few different portfolio reporting systems in the stack. As practices join, they go through a process of integration over time. E-money for financial planning. Y charts and Morningstar for investment data, Y charts for proposing as well. And then a number of other tools for specific advice. We've got Plan in the stack. We've got BNA for tax projections. We've got a number of different tax tools. We've got fairly robust tax practices. So CCH, Lacerte both exist within the environment as well as Thomson Reuters. And we pull all that in. And then I would say most importantly, well, equally importantly, the core systems, of course, are where we provide so much of our advice, a data warehouse layer. So we've got a data layer that pulls from over 28 different data sources, including the custodians, Schwab, Fidelity, and Pershing, as well as a number of others, into a core data warehouse and data lake layer where we're pushing data back and forth between systems. Big goal is to create integrated glue between those systems so that someone going through that client onboarding journey that's consistent between clients and between practices, and the data is also consistent in the different systems. So one team that's onboarding a client is onboarding that same client the same way as another practice. And from a data perspective, it's the same data.
Let's start with Salesforce. And that's something here at Ezra Group we work a lot with. And one of the things you mentioned, I want to pull out, you said, who are our clients? You'd be surprised how many firms we work with. When we walk in the door, we ask, well, how many clients do you have? They don't really have a good number. They have it a range. They kind of know, but they don't really know because they don't actually know who their clients are. So talk a little bit about some of the challenges around managing a Salesforce implementation that's so
Yeah.
comprehensive.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the question always is what's your definition of a client?
Mhm.
Like these are questions that everyone's like, well, it's obvious. And it's like, well, do you consider a client a co-domiciled group of individuals? Okay, what about their trust? Is it Rev or IREV?
Mhm.
What about their legal entities? What about their adult children? Like, okay, what does your client hierarchy actually look like? Is a question that very few people in the industry really like sit down and ask the question of like, okay,
Mhm.
how does this work and how are we going to do this consistently at scale? Because different practices will think about this in different ways. You work with a group that's really aligned to family office, and they're going to be like, our clients have 15, 20 plus entities, including really sophisticated trusts, and the trustees are lawyers, and they need to be signatories on everything, and da 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 da, very complex. Versus a practice where a client may be just John and Mary Smith with one trust for their kids in the future, very simple structure. They probably look at that as a single unit. Being able to look at what we call relationship groups and relationships individually is important, and looking at that in a hierarchy so that when we're doing reporting on our ADV, for example, we can say that we have 27,000 relationships, but we have 41,000 individual clients who have papered with us, who have unique client IDs. And being able to traverse between those two has been really important for us as we create downstream systems integration, really being able to do a sophisticated, yes, you've got John and Mary Smith. Yes, you've got the legal entity underneath it. Yes, you've got the trust and you've got the contact relationships between those and the beneficiaries and the trustees. Really thinking about that and that type of data challenge, and then how do you make that client hierarchy synchronized down into underlying systems like Orion, like eMoney, like even the tax platforms, and how you have data synchronized back up into that hierarchy um, is a fun problem. Honestly, like it's a thing that gets me super excited
Mhm.
because so many firms don't do that really well, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it keeps us in business. If they did, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I'm one of my favorite parts of my job is the connectivity with other CTOs at uh, in our large RIA space. Really, that top five largest RIAs in the nation. Like we're all at the same advisory boards with our custodians. We're always been like, hey, what do you think about this? These are challenges that all of us have encountered, and any firm of size and scale, if you don't think about it when you're small becomes a really big challenge when you're big. And if you haven't figured that out, it's like going back to the drawing board and being like, okay, I guess we need to change how we're reporting every single one of our clients. No one wants to do
Mm.
that.
No, and it's expensive. And
Very expensive.
right, and you mentioned that it's synchronizing client hierarchy to other applications as being fun, which is a little demented, but I agree completely, right? So that's why we're in the business because we like to do this stuff, right? But it seems a little crazy.
I mean, it is, but I still remember some of the original flow charts from like 6 years ago when there was really a green field on from a technology perspective. And it's like, hey, what's that client journey? What's the client onboarding process? And yes, it took a lot of time to build lots of different components on
Mhm.
that. But when you have an opportunity to really look at it from a grounds up build, and I'm personally blessed to have joined the firm when we were doing really a soup to nuts technology refresh. So we got a lot of opportunity to build this stuff right in the original sense. Man, there's nothing more fun. And when it works over a time period, it's not just like a 2 year, you're in the seat, you cobble a couple things together, but you get to live with the decisions that you made very early
Right.
on how that technology has evolved and built. Like super cool.
So you mentioned Orion, which is your portfolio management platform, performance reporting. But one thing that people don't realize when this is not an Orion issue, it's with any portfolio management system, when you're acquiring other firms, even if they have the same platform, you can't just convert them over. It's usually easier just to bring on the database and keep multiple databases running of the same vendor, multiple instances. But then that creates other complexities. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, even this goes into any portfolio reporting system. So you look at two Addepar instances, for example. You've seen one Addepar instance, you've seen one Addepar instance because it's a very sophisticated platform where you can have in levels of client data hierarchy, and different firms will set that up differently with different dimensions and attributes. And they'll do the same thing on an Orion, same thing on a Tamarack. They'll configure the clients differently. And yes, it's the same core system, like there is an Orion client ID, but how the groups are configured, what the custom attributes on that particular client are those attributes at a financial account level, a household level, and how are you using that to integrate with other systems can be very, very different. And obviously, like statements are different, the reporting is different, how billing schedules are configured are different. So it's never a situation of just like, let's smash two systems together blindly. Like there's always some sort of a conversion process, and it's something that Cerity Partners has spent a lot of time building a operations team that's, I would argue, best in the business from looking at how our portfolio reporting system's configured. I'd say the same thing with our IT infrastructure team, same thing with our Salesforce team that are able to look at systems and they've seen so many over time configured differently that they very quickly can be like, okay, these are the same points. These are going to be the pain points. These are areas where you're doing something that's incompatible, so to speak. Maybe it's a fee schedule that, hey, you have to make certain decisions in the Orion platform for what level you're going to do billing on. And you can make different decisions between platforms. And so finding that out early when you're in the integration process and knowing and communicating, hey, there will be a technology-led change. And here's the reason we're going to do it. And here's why we're going to be better after we do that. Like critically important from a change management perspective. And we've also invested there too. A large and robust and deep expertise, just focused day in and day out on change management, helping people go through change because it's just so tremendously hard otherwise.
Can you give me an example of how having that robust change management organization has avoided problems that you had in the past when you didn't have that?
I think it's easy to build new tools. Like I can build all sorts of stuff with my development team. But if they aren't utilized by the organization, it's a waste of time. Like you could build the coolest application ever, but if no one uses it, it literally doesn't matter. So take, for example, contracting. We had a major project about a year or two ago where we looked at our agreements and we were like, hey, there's a bunch of different versions and people are kind of saving them down and then modifying them, and that's not good. They're just putting kind of free text in. We really, really should, if we want onboard a client with straight through onboarding, like we need to get the data for the fee schedule for that client. We need to get a consistent who is the client who's contracting here. What are the consistent T's and C's based on the state that they've got they're in? Like we need all of that to be done in a guided experience to contract faster, to contract more accurately. So we could just build that, but would people go into Salesforce and click the button to enter the wizard to get a contract? No, they would be like, hey, I've got the old contract saved on my desktop. I'm going to just use that till the end of time. So when you think about like what does a change management team do? Number one, communicates, hey, everyone, we're making a change. Here's why that change is going to benefit you. You're going to be able to generate an agreement quicker. You're going to be able to generate an agreement that has a fee schedule that we can actually use at Cerity Partners. We're going to generate with T's and C's that properly protect both the client and the firm. This raises the bar for all of us. I mean, it's a contract. Like, it's not the sexiest thing in the universe, but it's an essential component to the business. And we're going to eliminate, like, hey, this goes into a big queue of people who turn a crank and review the contract and then upload it into Salesforce and flip the client from a prospect to a client. We're going to more quickly be able, when a client signs that piece of paper, flip that client to a client and let you get on to providing advice as opposed to like pushing paper around. How does this benefit you? So that change management team focuses on that communication. And then as you're actually shipping and releasing it, they're working with what we call our CPA champions, or a group of colleagues across the firm who are kind of this quote unquote champions who work with us
Did you say
on
CPA champions?
CP champions.
CP, yes. Cerity Partners
Cerity
champions.
Partners
Gotcha.
champions. Yeah. Who preview a lot of this stuff, who give them early access in a sandbox, early training, get feedback on these things. And it's great for the development team because we get like, hey, what's people's reactions to this? Should we put this button here? Or, hey, we made this restriction. Is that a valid restriction? Does this actually help people? Or should we make this a little more streamlined? And then finally, like once you've actually shipped something and you're 6 months down the road, are you taking the time to look at what you've delivered? And are people using it? If they aren't, why not? The change management team helped us specifically, like with this private client agreement, the agreement update project of working with the individual practices who weren't using it and asking the question, why? Not beating them over the head and being like, hey, why aren't you using this? That's terrible. Just being like, hey, empathetic. Like, why aren't you using this? What is the breakdown?
Hmm.
And then they'd come back to the dev team and be like, hey, we need to make this small tweak. And we would. And that makes delivery just so much better. It's always about people, process, technology at the end of that process, critical to it. But if you don't do the people part and you don't do the process part, it again doesn't matter. And it's a much rougher experience.
So one of the first slides we show when we're working with a new wealth management firm is the people process technology slide. And here's where we're going to be dividing up this project. And here's, as you mentioned, without the people in the process, you can have all the technology in the world. And you've got all the technology now, but it's not working because you haven't aligned the people in the process with the technology. So I get
Yeah.
it 100%. But I wanted to move on before we run out of time. Data warehouse. Really impressed with what you guys have done. It's a big part of Ezra Group's work as well. And can you talk a little about how you started it and how you put it together and how it supports your culture, your OS layer, and your M&A.
Yeah, absolutely. From a practice perspective, from our colleagues who are providing advice, the goal in the data warehouse is to be, they don't need to know it exists, right? It is in the background moving data around. It is the core bit. When I joined, we had frankly, core problem. You had a CRM and you had a portfolio reporting system, and they had different data in them, not just different clients. Like people would look at a client slightly differently in a portfolio reporting system than they would in a CRM. How do you resolve that? How do you do that even down to the general ledger level, where you're actually creating a client to receive revenue at the end of the day? And tie all that data together cleanly. Like if you don't have consistent data between platforms and consistent data in those platforms, man, you're it's a Sisyphean task to then
Mm.
collate everything. So really, we came with a core problem. Like, how do we get financial account data from the portfolio reporting systems into the CRM program? That was the starting point. So we were like, okay, how do we do this? We could build a point-to-point integration between Orion and Salesforce and use Salesforce to query out to Orion and pull out. But what happens when we merge with a team, a practice, a firm that has Tamarack or has Black Diamond? Are we going to say, hey, no, you can't use Salesforce until you've completed your portfolio reporting conversion? Those conversions can be long and complex. No, we didn't want to do that. So it didn't make sense to create point-to-point integrations. It made a whole lot more sense to create a hub and spoke model of data. So how do we make any given system essentially a data contributor? They all put data in data lakes is our core like thesis. Every single system that we have, including like CCH and our tax platforms, like we will do a replication so that we're not hammering that inline system from an API perspective. We're able to have kind of, hey, it's either daily, 15-minute delay, like a synchronization to that data lake. And then we're able to go from those data lakes and then through model-driven development, really just straight SQL. We're not doing like stored procedures where we're taking the data and making foundational modifications to it. We're doing it a way you could kind of trace back what those changes are. We're able to take that data and bring it upstream into a client master and a financial account master. And then we're able to do that next steps, which is build the integration layer of taking that same data and putting it down into the underlying systems and provide uplift and efficiency for our practices. That's the whole goal is to be able to provide client service better, quicker, faster, more accurately, and do less administrative work for the maintenance of your book of business. So how can we use that data warehouse to really move data around and create really nice experiences for practices as they're onboarding a client that, yeah, when I click the new client button, it creates the new client in Orion too. Like obvious little things, but without that data warehouse layer, that'd be really difficult for us to do. And it'd be really difficult for us to do as practices are going through a technology onboarding, particularly over the course of their first year. We need to give them access to these tools immediately so that they can follow our quote unquote CP way and join in that CP way. If we wait a year or 2 years to do that, like you're just now doing a giant change management process 2 years down the road. So that was the whole reason.
Exactly. So you mentioned the hub and spoke model. So you're replicating data from all systems into a data lake. So what benefits does that provide specifically to your overall operations?
From a from its core, just being able to have consistent data. For example, we've got often the same financial account in two or more portfolio reporting systems as people are going through a transition. Um, if we can't have recon of, okay, which of these financial accounts has the fee schedule on it, which is the source of truth for that particular client, or which is the most accurate AUM, or which has been updated through an alts process when the next statement has released and received its update. If we're not doing that, and doing that recon between the different systems, if we're just doing these point-to-point integrations, like it's opportunities for bad data to creep in really quickly. So what that provides is both a way for us to look at data at a firm level, at a practice level, at a client level, and make sure that the quality of that data between different systems and which system we are selecting within the data warehouse for that particular client and their list of financial accounts, that's accurate, and that we're then using that accurate view of the client to bring that data down into the appropriate system so that when that team is providing client service, that they're doing that with accurate data. Like that's what's key and really just absolutely freaking important. Of course, at the same time, it absolutely gives us a great way to provide value to the practices from a, hey, here's your book of business. Here are your clients. Here are people who you've talked to or not talked to recently, who you should reach out to. Here are clients where you may have something is maybe going on. You should really talk to this individual. At its core, it always comes back to, hey, you need to provide service to your clients and you need to do that really well. And it's a way for us to help practices do that more effectively.
Stefan, I could go on and on with this, and we can keep drilling down. This is incredibly interesting to me, but we are out of time. Where can listeners find more information about Cerity Partners?
Absolutely. At our website, ceritypartners.com. Please, please, please. We love to connect with others in our industry. Me in particular, I love to collaborate on all things technology and systems integration. So if you're in the space, if you're building technology in the wealth management space, feel free to connect with me. Again, you can find us at ceritypartners.com. And thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Hey, it's Craig again. Here are my top three takeaways from this episode. We learned a lot about Cerity Partners' approach to integration, their goal to create a unified firm, not just an aggregator operating under one ADV. We talked about their tech stack, Salesforce, Orion, eMoney, Eclipse for Trading, YCharts, Morningstar, and more. We learned about their data warehouse architecture, that they built a hub and spoke model with data lakes for each system, and they're bringing data from all their applications into their data lake so that they have one unified view across the firm. And they're very highly invested in change management with a dedicated change management team for tech rollouts that focuses on communicating benefits and gathering user feedback and increasing advisor adoption. All right, you've made it to the end of another episode of the Wealth Tech Today podcast. Thanks for listening. But before you go, head to our website, ezragroup.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.